have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am
I am
tired,
tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
My name
is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Middle of the week, Wednesday, September 10. Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show. This is Washington, D.C. This is our studio on Capitol Hill, and this is your roundup of all the news of the day from Washington, from around the country, from around the globe on Free Speech TV. You got a satellite dish? the Dish Network, or DirecTV, you got us. You've got an electronic device anywhere in the world on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. You got us as well. Yes, indeed, the big news of the day, President Obama dealing with how to confront the threat of ISIS. He briefed congressional leaders yesterday in the Oval Office, leaders of both the Republican and the Democratic Party in the House and in the Senate. Last night, a marathon 3-hour dinner with foreign policy experts in the White House, all leading up to tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, the president speaking to the nation in prime time on ISIS, detailing making the case against ISIS, I should say, and then outlining his strategy for dealing with ISIS. The president has already told the congressional leaders yesterday that he feels he needs no vote from Congress to authorize airstrikes against ISIS positions inside of Syria. The big question is, are the American people ready for another war in the Middle East? Are you? We'll talk about it on this Wednesday morning. Meanwhile, the NFL still trying to explain why it didn't make any better effort to get that videotape inside the elevator on Ray Rice, or did they, and just ignore it. And House Republicans, no time while they're here. They say they have no time to deal with minimum wage, no time to deal with immigration, but they have scheduled another hearing on Benghazi. This is hearing number 3,579 by my count on Benghazi. Lots to talk about. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple, and they add up, and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues, and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. And like Archimedes said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Is America ready to go back to war? We'll find out tonight. Hey, hello, everybody. It's Wednesday, September 10. And it's good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. This is the Bill Press Show. Of course. Good to have you with us. And we got, lots to talk about today. It is a big day with President Obama giving a rare primetime speech to the nation from the East Room of the White House tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 Central, where he will lay out the case for making airstrikes against ISIS in Syria. That's just one of the things we're going to be talking about this morning. We got lots to tell you about what's happening here in Washington, D.C. Would you believe that Republicans are gearing up for yet one more hearing? Well, not just one more, but yet the first of probably another whole series of hearings on Benghazi. Well, at least the good news is they're not still voting to repeal Obamacare. They gave up on that one, a long time ago. So whatever's happening here in Washington, around the country, around the globe, we'll tell you about it. That's what we do every day. You tell us what it means to you. That's your job every day. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And don't forget, you can always add us to your electronic device by downloading the app, TuneIn app or the iHeartRadio app, and find us on both of those. So much to talk about. That's why we're here with you on your local progressive talk radio station, here with you on Free Speech TV. We've got a satellite dish, DirecTV, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Listening or watching, welcome to the team, Peter Rockburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Hey.
Hey, happy hump day.
It is hump day.
Oh, don't say it. I was so tired of hearing that. Alicia Cruz on the phones, ready to go. Hello, Alicia. And Cyprian Bolding. At least I'd rather have Cyprian have a mic than you some morning. Because at least he doesn't tell the same old Milton Berle jokes. Yeah. All right. There he is. Rare appearance by Cyprian Bolding.
Very rare appearance.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Right. All right. Here's always a big question about when you win the lottery. Would you come back to work the next day?
No.
That's the big question. Yeah. Well, I know, Peter. That's what you always say. Rhonda Meese out in Minnesota. She hit the jackpot yesterday for not a huge jackpot, for $12 million. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it, baby. Yeah. $12 million. And she said she loves her job.
I actually really enjoy my job. I have great friends here and a great boss, and it's just a really fantastic place to work. So I have no plans of leaving.
It's a fantastic place to work. She's not going to leave. She's a waitress. She's a waitress in a coffee shop out there in Minnesota. And she says, now, one thing is going to change.
Oh, I think the kitchen staff's going to be a lot nicer to me.
The kitchen staff.
I'm sure they will.
I wonder now if she'll pick up any tips anymore. People go, hey, she doesn't need
yeah, she doesn't need it.
She doesn't need the money.
See how long she stays in that job.
Maybe she'll be tipping her customers.
Yeah, right.
For taking my table. You don't think she's going to stay in that job very long?
I don't think so. Like, having been a waiter,
yeah.
I mean, working in that field could be a thankless job. And when you have a couple of rough days in a row and you go, I could keep coming here.
Yeah.
Or I could go home to my $12 million and not have to deal with anybody.
Yeah, I must admit, I've had a lot of different jobs. I've never been a waiter or a busboy even in a restaurant.
It's a job that's it can be demanding.
Yeah, but put me down on the list of those that say hit the jackpot with the lottery. Forget it.
Yeah. I love my job so much, I would definitely keep it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Take this job and shove it. David Jackson from USA Today on the job early this morning. Will joining us a little bit later in this hour from the White House. And then we're going to be taking a look at not just the president's speech tonight. That's where we'll start, of course, but the latest on immigration, the latest on Apple's big line of products, new products coming out yesterday, and the latest on the lame excuses by the NFL for why they never saw, they say, that video of Ray Rice inside the elevator with his then girlfriend. Yes, President Obama's speech to the nation tonight. What do you want to hear? What are you looking for? What do you need to hear? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories.
I'll get my cocktail.
Yeah, there you go. Get that first martini in the morning. Always goes down the smoothest.
Shaken, not stirred.
You got it. All right, just a couple of other stories. Making news. Bill, Alicia, Cyprian, me, we're all married, right? Turns out...
Is everybody here married?
Everybody here is married.
Whoa.
It turns out, though, we are in the minority. Believe it or not, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, when they put out their monthly job market report, one of the statistics that was buried in there shows that for the first time since the government began keeping statistics on marriage, there are more single people in America than married people. Adults, of course, over the age of 18. They started keeping numbers on this in 1976. Ever since then,
right.
there have been more married people. But today, people are waiting longer to get married, or they're not married anymore. And so, for the first time ever, more single people.
Well, we could make that change. We could make
change either one of those, right? Congratulations.
People getting smarter.
Yeah, right. Right. Our friends Moms Demand Action on gun control got another big win earlier this week when Panera Bread Company said that they are banning guns in response to the Moms Demand, saying, we want to know where you stand on this, put it out there. Do you allow guns in your stores or not? They said, we do not allow guns in our stores. Quote, we want to create an environment where customers and associates feel comfortable and welcome. And unless a guest is an authorized law enforcement officer, they are asking for patrons to leave their guns at home.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them. And good for moms.
They
moms.
Keep after it.
They are such an effective organization. They really are. We've had representatives, different ones from that group in several times, and they're great.
And I like how they're going after these, especially restaurants, and saying, where do you stand? They've already gotten Chipotle, Sonic, Chili's, Jack in the Box to all say we do not allow guns in our restaurant. So
Five Guys yet?
No Five Guys yet.
Come on, Five Guys, get on board.
That's a good question. And yesterday we
District
saw
Donuts. They have District Donuts.
I don't think they allow them in District Donuts. Yesterday we saw the new iPhones. 2 new iPhones. They're calling it the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus. The big difference is size. As the New York Times found out earlier, one is 4.7 inches. Mm-hmm. One is 5.5 inches. They also unveiled the Apple Watch, which, of course, will be able to monitor some of your workout activity and things like that, so it ties all into the watch. The price, by the way, for the highest end of the iPhone 6 Plus, $500.
Oh.
And you get the 128 gigabyte. That's with a 2-year contract, by the way. So that's the cheaper version.
Yeah.
They are not cheap phones.
No. Big picture in the New York Times this morning of the phone.
Of the watch.
I'm sorry, of the watch.
Yeah.
With Tim Cook.
I'm not sold on the watch.
No, I'm intrigued by it. I like to see it.
And they kind of left lefties in the dark, too.
Yeah, that's what. There's some left-handed people complaining that they don't have a left-handed watch, for...
What the hell? What's a left-handed watch?
Well, so there's some of the functionality.
I'm a lefty.
So she's a lefty.
So you spend your whole life feeling disadvantaged.
Why does that make a difference with your watch?
They were complaining that some of the functionality on the phone, right, is the interface. You're using the interface on the front, so it's not just as easy as just switching sides.
Look,
here's a real question.
Look, I love Swatch. Okay,
Sure.
I've got a Swatch watch. It's hard
Sure.
to say, but I could wear it on this side if I wanted to.
Right, but that also doesn't have all the other stuff that this Apple Watch will have.
Doesn't matter. It would work on either wrist.
Okay.
It's a manipulation of it. There's a lot of people mad about it yesterday.
Get a life.
Let me ask you this.
Get a life.
Are you going to get the new iPhone?
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to tell you. I saw someone hold up this new 5.5 to 6 Plus. It's a big phone.
Mm-hmm.
It's bigger than the Samsung.
I won't get the real big one.
I don't want to get the big one.
Because when Igor comes in, he's got the Samsung.
It's bigger than that.
No, I don't want that.
I don't want that.
No, too big. Otherwise, I have my iPad.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Here we go. Yes, indeed. This is a big day, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to be talking about, I'm sure, for not just today, but the rest of the week. And here's what we have to decide. And here's my question to you. And this is important for every American. What do you want to hear from the president tonight? He's going to give a speech to the nation, the American people, prime time. You know, President Obama rarely, this may be, well, we'll ask David Jackson later, right?
Yeah.
Maybe third or fourth time, if that he has asked to address the nation in prime time. A matter that important. But he's doing it tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 Central. He's doing it from the White House in what's called the Cross Hall. He'll do it right at the entrance to the East Room. So he comes out, walks up that magnificent hall, stands there, entrance to the East Room, and he will address the nation about the crisis in Syria and about the threat of ISIS. And the White House has made it very clear that he will make the case as to why ISIS is such a serious threat. And secondly, he will outline his strategy for dealing with ISIS. So far, we've heard only in the most general terms what that strategy is all about. One key element of it, and by the way, the speech tonight comes. There's been a series of steps toward this speech. It really quickened yesterday, where he met yesterday afternoon from the House, Speaker Boehner and Leader Nancy Pelosi, from the Senate, Leader Harry Reid and Republican Leader Mitch McConnell. Then last night, he had a dinner meeting with foreign policy experts from around the country who came in for that dinner just to give him their opinions as to what he can do, what he can't do. He laid out to them, sketched out to them what his plans are. We know Jane Harman, former member of Congress from California, head of the Woodrow Wilson Institute, was among those present. There were about, I think, 12 or 15 people there. And tonight, he's going to talk to us about it. Josh Ernest at the briefing yesterday said one element of the president's strategy, of course, is that the United States will not go it alone. We'll do so with our allies.
What the president will talk about in the speech tomorrow is what that next phase entails. Generally speaking, at the core of that next phase is understanding and protecting the core national security interests of the United States and protecting the American people.
And to do the steps toward this action that the president wants to announce. In other words, he has already kind of leaked his hand with the interview with Chuck Todd on Meet the Press on Sunday. The president talked about these elements of his strategy. Now listen carefully. They include a new stable government in Iraq. They include the Iraqi military, that's the second point, which would provide ground forces to follow up on American airstrikes inside of Iraq and Syria. That's third. Second. Third, they include militarized and with more weapons, Syrian opposition forces, the moderate opposition in Syria, who would follow up on airstrikes inside of Syria. And then fourth, they would include some ground troops, some resources, including ground troops, from neighbors, Sunni neighbors, Arab nations in the area, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, United Arab Emirates. So those are the four kind of key elements of the strategy. So I ask you again, and this is important for every American to reflect on, is that enough to convince you are you convinced that ISIS is a serious enough threat, first of all, that we have to go back to war? That's what this is. This is the president saying we're going back to war in Iraq and Syria now. So are you convinced ISIS is a serious enough threat? Are you convinced that those four elements will fall into place? They're all iffy, if you ask me. This new government in Iraq is only 2 days old. I mean, right? We really think this one's going to last? How do we know that yet? The Iraqi military, they haven't shown that they're up to much yet. I mean, they see the opposition and they drop their guns and run. The Syrian opposition, they haven't shown much moxie either. I mean, ISIS is stronger than they are inside of Syria, and certainly Assad's government is stronger. And then Saudi Arabia and Jordan and the United Arab Emirates, yeah, it'd be nice to have them on the ground, but they've never been on the ground yet, even though we've given them billions of dollars in military aid over the years. So those are the elements. Are you convinced those elements are all going to fall into place and they're all going to work? And then I think we also want to know, I'd like to hear from you about this, I think we ought to be told also, if we're going back to war, how long is this one going to last and how much is it going to cost? Just give us some idea. Are we in there for a month? Are we in there for a year? Are we in there for 8 more years? And are we going to spend another $1 trillion? I think we have a right to know all that before we go to war. And by the way, I also think Congress ought to vote on this. Get them part of it. We don't want another presidential decision taking us to war.
That's right. Look, we should have learned our lessons from George Bush being president.
I'm not sure we have.
It doesn't feel like it. These aren't questions that are being asked, I don't think.
And I wonder whether the American people give a damn. You tell me. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour, President Obama making the case against ISIS today and outlining our strategy for dealing with it, which includes, not limited to, airstrikes, American airstrikes against ISIS positions inside of Syria. Are you ready? What do you want to hear from the president tonight? Lucia's calling from Burdett. Is it New York? Hi, Lucia.
Hi, Bill.
What do you think?
Long-time listener and long-time watcher.
Thank you. Yeah.
Bill, I am war-weary, and I'm also disappointment-weary over President Obama. I voted for him twice. I like him so much, but he has disappointed us in so many ways. And now we, as Americans, have to sit here and cross our fingers and hope he doesn't tell us that we're going to go into another war. I might sound selfish, but I think it's none of our business. Stop the drones and go back to living our lives.
Well, Lucia, I think you reflect the feelings of a lot of Americans. I think war-weary is the one word that probably describes most Americans at this time. We got out of Iraq once. Now we're back into Iraq. We're hopefully still going to get out of Afghanistan by the end of the year. And now we want to go into Syria. He hasn't convinced me yet that that's the thing to do.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Make it 34 minutes after the hour now, Wednesday, September 10. Everybody poised for the president's big speech tonight to the nation on ISIS to make the case. I think he's got an uphill climb to convince the American people that we are ready, even under this president, to go back to war in the Middle East, and this time to expand that war into inside of Syria. Now, this is not a George Bush shock and all approach. The president is saying very carefully he wants to get his ducks in a row. And again, here they are, right? Stable, new, unitary coalition government in Iraq, Iraqi military equipped and able to perform. We're not sure of that yet. Moderate Syrian opposition armed and ready to follow up on airstrikes inside of Syria. And then some ground troops from Saudi Arabia and Turkey, by the way, and Jordan and the United Arab Emirates. And you put all that together, the president says, then we've got the coalition we need to support and follow through on American airstrikes inside of Syria and to achieve our ultimate goal of degrading and destroying ISIS, which is what the president and the president and Josh Earnest, press secretary, have said over and over again. That is our ultimate mission. Peter,
we're at on Twitter at BP Show Make sure you're following us there. Lots of comments on this. Karen weighs in, says, "Why is it that we only have money for war and BS hearings?" So far, we've only, on today's show, we've talked about the war and
the Benghazi hearing.
Yeah. We have money for those types of things. Margaret says, "No, I am not convinced that we need to go into war." And Jessica says, "I'm afraid of the losses, the injuries, whether the VA can handle more, whether our country can handle more boots on the ground."
All good points. And I think the questions are, right, what do you want to hear from the president tonight? How much is this going to cost? How long is it going to last? Can I ask, I see a lot of calls here. I want to get back to you, but I want to ask another dumb question.
Go ahead.
And I tried to get this question to Josh Earnest yesterday, but, I waved, but I never got called on. But here's my questions. I want to know, I'm really curious, how many ISIS are there? How many ISIS fighters are there? We are assembling maybe the biggest coalition that's military that's been put together since World War II. Okay, we're talking about the mighty United States of America, our NATO allies, our Arab allies, the Iraqi army, the Syrian opposition, Saudi Arabia. We're putting all these forces. I want to know how many ISIS are there. I mean, what are there? I don't know. I don't know.
It's a good question.
Are there 1,000 of them? Are there 10,000 of them?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I want to know. I mean, how big are they? Right?
It's a good question. That's a legitimate question.
Yeah. I mean, if there's only like 1,500 of them, then maybe there's another way to handle this.
Right.
Davis is in Radford, Virginia. Davis, what do you say? What do you want to hear tonight?
I'd like to hear the president stress the fact that ISIS is not following the Quran. The Quran says, "Love your neighbor, fairness to the poor, and equality to women." I'd like to give a message.
Well, you are absolutely right, and I know the president has said that before. I mean, the Quran overall, right, is a peaceful document, peaceful text and creed, just like the Bible is overall. Unfortunately, there are some passages in the Bible that people use to justify some of the worst things in the world and worst forms of discrimination. And there are some passages in the Quran that can be twisted in that same way. David, but I don't think you're going to see a theological statement from the president tonight. I mean, tonight he's going to be talking about war, unfortunately. Paul is in Lucerne, California. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Bill. I'm kind of disappointed he's going to be talking about war. I was happy with how he handled the Benghazi situation. He tracked those criminals down, brought them to justice. They should track the people down that cut those reporters' heads off and bring them to justice. And the people that ordered it, that's how we should deal with the situation, in my opinion. War is not good. It's bad.
Well, that's why I asked that question, Paul, about how many there are and whether there might be another way to take care of these guys, right? I don't know. I'm just posing that question. But, John F. Kennedy said something, Paul, along the lines of, we either end war or it will end us. And I think the problem is, and I saw yesterday something like 71% of the American people now think ISIS is a serious enough threat to justify military strikes against them. The problem is we generally, the American people, always think that war is the answer, that more bombs are the answer, more violence is the answer. And if we just bomb the hell out of them, we're going to solve the problem. You know what? It has never worked yet. It didn't work in Iraq. It didn't work in Afghanistan, right? That's why we're still there. So if we think this is going to be, I'll tell you one thing. If we think this is going to be a quick operation, we are sadly mistaken. Anybody who thinks that is crazy.
But I do think a lot of people actually think that. I don't think that people realize how big of a.
How can they think that after we were 8 years in Iraq and we're now 10 years in Afghanistan? How can people possibly think we're going to start another war inside of Syria and it's going to be over in a matter? Yeah, that's Dick Cheney speak, right? Yeah. Well, All right, let's throw that out. We'll be greeted as liberators when we go into Syria, too. I'll tell you won't hear that from Obama tonight.
No.
Douglas is out in Oakland, California. Hey, Douglas.
Hey, Bill. Syria is a sovereign nation. I'd like to hear the president say that we're going to finally respect the sovereignty of another country, and they're going to try to work with the president of Syria. There's no other way around it. I served two tours in Fallujah, and I was on the ground, and there's war and bombing is not going to solve this particular environment and situation that we're in. We got to respect other countries' borders.
Yeah, there is that sticky point, isn't there, Douglas, that this is another sovereign nation that we would be basically bombing, right? Yeah. No, absolutely. Excellent point. And I think it's important that voices like Douglas be heard. You know, people who have served in the military, people have been to Iraq, people have served in Iraq, and see that no matter what George Bush and Dick Cheney and Condi Rice said, that the arm of the U.S. military, you cannot force democracy at the point of a tank or an AK-47. Carol's out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hello, Carol.
Hi. I'm just wondering, which is it? Last week it was that the journalist was beheaded, or both journalists were beheaded, and he wasn't doing enough. President wasn't doing enough. Now you're saying, oh, my God, he's doing too much. I don't want to go to war, but, make up your mind. Do you want this president to take and do something about this, or do you want him not to and just want to complain about it?
Well, Carol, I appreciate your challenge here, but I don't think the options are do nothing or go to war. Yeah, I want him to do something. I'd like to have heard him express a little more outrage over those two executions. I would like him, as I pointed out, not to have run out to the golf course as soon as he said something about the first execution. I think there are things short of going to war, and yet we're going to hear tonight, at least from all indications and people who've the leaks that we've heard out of the two meetings the president had yesterday, they're not going to call it war, but
it's war.
It's war.
It's war.
I mean, yeah, right. And maybe the American people are ready for that. Maybe they're not. Okay, we give the last word on this before we talk to David Jackson. Joey in Chicago. Joey, what's up?
Who better?
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, Joey.
Unfortunately, we are the most powerful nation in the world. There's a responsibility that comes with that and having the best military. These people run rampant over there. There's probably about 30,000 of them, they think, maybe 20,000 actual fighters. They stole all our equipment out of Iraq. The Iraqi army is helping us right now. They're holding them dams that we blew them people off of. So the Iraqi army is working with us, so is the Peshmerga. So we do have help there. So
Joey,
we're going to do this.
Joey, they're the Kurds. They're the Kurdish forces that are holding on to that dam, not the Iraqi army. And they didn't steal that equipment from Iraq. That was handed to them by the Iraqi army that we're now going to depend on to do the job for us. How can we depend on that Iraqi army? They're a bunch of jokes.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong, Bill. See, they're holding that one dam in Haida. The Kurds are holding the one in Mosul. Okay, they are working with us.
All right, Joey. I was going to say, if you're placing all your bets on the Iraqi army to get us through this, man. And again, the Iraqi government. I hope it lasts. They've been there 2 days. And already saying, yay, we got the government we want. Now we can go to war. Yeah, maybe let's give them a month. Yeah, before we say, we got what we need there. They haven't even filled all their cabinet positions yet. David Jackson's great calls, people. Thank you so much. We'll talk and take more calls all through the program, of course. This is a very, very important moment for the American people. David Jackson already at the White House. We'll talk to him coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars? Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour. Here we go. The big day. President Obama poised for his primetime address to the nation tonight. David Jackson on the job at the White House for USA Today. Hello, David.
Hello, Bill.
So, what do you think about the timing and the site of this speech tonight?
Well, very interesting. He wants to go all in, basically make a primetime appeal to the American people to back him and be patient with his strategy against ISIS, ISIL, or the Islamic State, whichever you want to call them.
Right. Not in front of an audience, right?
No, not. In fact, there was a chatter. There was a consideration of making an Oval Office address. He's only done those twice, but apparently at the last minute they decided to go ahead and go for basically the foyer of the White House.
Right, where he walks down that long hall and at the entrance to the East Room. Is that right?
And I think it's basically the basic entrance. You go in the front door that faces on Pennsylvania Avenue, and it'll do it kind of right there.
Oh, like right there. Yeah, he's done things there before.
Right.
Do you know how many primetime addresses the president has made to the nation? He doesn't do this. He doesn't ask for prime time very often.
This is either his 9th or 10th, depending on how you define them, because he got State of the Union addresses and stuff.
Right.
I think solo performances. I think Noller said yesterday this. I think he said he's done 9, so this will be his 10th.
Right. Now, he's had these two meetings, yesterday with the congressional leaders and last night with foreign policy leaders. So what do we hear from them as to what he's going to lay out tonight?
Just an overall basic strategy. Well, there's a lot of different things floating around. If you read the papers, you'll see this. But basically, what I've been told is, yeah, there's going to be a lot of talk about U.S. military action, but there's also going to be a lot of emphasis on the diplomatic efforts, on the countries that have been recruited to help us in this effort, and also the emphasis on training the Iraqi security forces and also training the moderate forces in Syria. I think the most interesting thing tonight is what he says about Syria. And I think there are several different possibilities floating around, ranging from, proclamation of potential strikes to training of fighters within Syria, and how he deals with that, I think, is going to be the most interesting part of the speech.
Do you think he's going to announce his decision for airstrikes in Syria?
No, I don't. But I've been told not to expect it. That we're not going into Syria anytime soon. But he may broach the subject, and I think that yesterday he told leaders of Congress that he believes he has the authority to do it, both in Iraq and in Syria. And I suspect it's something he'll bring up. But how far he goes in public, I just don't know.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that next. That's why I've read that too. That he had the leaders of Congress there, and saying, he feels he's got the authority to go even without any congressional authorization. Is that the right thing to do? That's the question, I guess, huh?
Well, it's up to each individual. I mean, I always think it's helpful to have a vote of confidence from Congress, and I think he would get it for whatever he wanted to propose. But, there are a lot of people in Congress who don't want to do this bill.
Right.
In fact, I was really surprised McConnell went out and said that he should go to Congress because that was. But I think McConnell's in the minority. I think a large swath of both Democrats and Republicans would just as soon to have the president do it as on his own.
Man,
but you're right. I think in general it's always helpful to have the backing of the Congress because it makes a statement to the public and to the world, and also gives everybody a little more insulation.
Now, when you look at the elements, and Josh outlined the elements, even though we haven't heard the speech yet, and the same ones that the president did with Chuck Todd on Sunday, the elements include a stable government in Iraq, new stable government in Iraq, a newly trained and Iraqi military we can count on, the moderate Syrian opposition weaponized and trained so we can count on them, and then some help from Saudi Arabia and Jordan and other Arab nations, and they're putting some boots on the ground. All four of those are awfully iffy to me.
Oh, very well. We're banking an awful lot on the new Iraqi government. I feel like he can't help but be a little more cooperative with Nouri Maliki's government. But at least with the new government now, I think we're in a better position to train the Iraqi security forces, and it'll be a little more organized. That's another thing, Bill, to look for tonight is there's a lot of chatter about sending more support troops to Iraq, and there might even be a resurrection of the talk. Remember the talk about having an agreement to have up to 10,000 American troops in Iraq after? Right. Of course, those fell apart because of the Maliki government. It wouldn't shock me if those talks got reopened tonight, and that's something to look for in the president's speech tonight, is whether or not we might start sending more trainers and military support personnel to Iraq.
But boy, pardon me, if all of those ducks have to be in a row before we go, we're talking a long time.
Oh, it's very complex. You mentioned that they are getting a lot of support, including from Arab nations, but a lot of those Arab nations don't want that support to be known.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, I can. Off air, I can tell you some countries that I think are helping us, but they don't want to be identified as such, and I don't think they ever will be identified in a public way. So he's got that to worry about. And also in terms of Syria, first of all, we have to identify who the moderates are in Syria, and also we have to make it look like we're not helping Bashar al-Assad. So it's all very complex, and the president's only going to speak for 15 minutes, so he's not going to be able to get to all these points. So I think the thing to look for is how many specifics does he give us, and what does he not talk about?
Yeah, we'll be weighing every word. David Jackson, thanks so much, David. Look forward to talking to you later. All right.
Thank you, Bill.
David Jackson at the White House, USA Today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack? President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer. Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like it back?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Hey, there are another couple of very important issues, not just ISIS on the agenda. One of them, of course, immigration. We'll talk about that at the top of the next hour, and whether or not the president did the right thing in delaying his action on immigration until after the midterms. Hour number 2 coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
There's...
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Middle of the week, Wednesday, September 10. Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show. This is Washington, D.C. This is our studio on Capitol Hill, and this is your roundup of all the news of the day from Washington, from around the country, from around the globe on Free Speech TV. You got a satellite dish, the Dish Network, or DirecTV? You got us. You've got an electronic device anywhere in the world on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. You got us as well. Yes, indeed, the big news of the day, President Obama dealing with how to confront the threat of ISIS. He briefed congressional leaders yesterday in the Oval Office, leaders of both the Republican and the Democratic Party in the House and in the Senate, Last night, a marathon 3-hour dinner with foreign policy experts in the White House, all leading up to tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, the president speaking to the nation in prime time on ISIS, detailing making the case against ISIS, I should say, and then outlining his strategy for dealing with ISIS. The president has already told the congressional leaders yesterday that he feels he needs no vote from Congress to authorize airstrikes against ISIS positions inside of Syria. The big question is, are the American people ready for another war in the Middle East? Are you? We'll talk about it on this Wednesday morning. Meanwhile, the NFL still trying to explain why it didn't make any better effort to get that videotape inside the elevator on Ray Rice, or did they, and just ignore it? And House Republicans, no time while they're here. They say they have no time to deal with minimum wage, no time to deal with immigration, but they have scheduled another hearing on Benghazi. This is hearing number 3,579 by my count on Benghazi. Lots to talk about. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Are the American people ready for another war? Well, we'll find out tonight. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? It is Wednesday, September 10. Great to see you today. It is the Bill Press Show. We are live in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and our studio on Capitol Hill. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, coast to coast, nationwide. Coming to you live on Free Speech TV nationwide as well, and worldwide on our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Good to see you today, and we look forward to hearing from you on the issues of the day. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, and send us your comments on Twitter and at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. We've been talking a lot about ISIS and the president's speech tonight. Also, a big issue of the moment is the issue of immigration. Don't expect any action out of Congress, but how about some action out of the president? We thought it might come sooner than it looks like it will. Ben Monterroso is the director of Mi Familia Vota, dealing with this issue, and joins us in studio. Fellow Angelino, I guess we call it, right?
We can say that.
Hey, Ben, nice to see you.
It's a pleasure. Good morning.
Thanks for coming in. You've been working in this area a lot longer than I have in Los Angeles together on some of these issues, so it's good to see you. We'll find out what you've been up to lately, and you join our team here, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Hey.
With Alicia Cruz on the phones, and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, keeping us looking good on the video cam. In addition to immigration, in addition to ISIS, there's some news on the technology front yesterday. Pick up your iPhone. You might want to trade it in because Apple is out with a whole new, bigger, and maybe better, Peter? Bigger, certainly.
Definitely bigger. They have two new iPhones. One is slightly bigger than the one that they currently have on the market.
Slightly bigger than this one.
And one is significantly bigger than the one that they have on the market. So
and
the iPhone
a phone.
6, a watch.
A watch. I'm sorry, what am I saying? And a watch, right.
So it's got the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus.
Right.
And then they've got the Apple Watch now. Yeah.
Can you do everything on the watch that you can do on your iPhone?
You could do not everything, but you could do other things. The watch, the idea here is that it's sort of a lifestyle monitor, right? So it monitors your heart rate and things like that. It keeps your health stuff on the watch. It also tells time, which I guess is sort of a byproduct of that. It's like the iPhone. You do everything on the iPhone but actually call people.
Yeah. What an old-fashioned idea.
Yeah.
Right?
It's the guts have also been upgraded on the phones. They've got faster processors, better cameras, better battery life. Things like that. So,
and here's one thing that's interesting is that Apple's gotten a lot of flack because they're made in China, I guess, or wherever. But Tim Cook yesterday said, no, more and more they're bringing jobs back here to the United States.
Between the watch and the iPhones that you've seen, we will have parts or materials or equipment made in 22 of the 50 states.
All right. So that's...
Getting there.
Getting there. Exactly. So we'll talk immigration here at the top of the hour. Cindy Boren joins from the Washington Post, joins us to talk Ray Rice and NFL at the half hour. In the next hour, we're going to be talking more about the Apple phone and more about the NFL as well. But first, with the headlines of the day.
Full court press. Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. You see every now and then people will catch a rare type of lobster. There's the blue lobster that they'll catch, which only comes around, one every 100 million lobsters that are caught are blue. Well, last month in Maine...
The only ones that I know are red.
Well, yeah, that's the only ones that we're usually seeing. But they catch these rare
after they're cooked,
lobsters.
of course.
Yes, exactly. But off the coast of Maine, a lobsterman actually caught a white lobster. The chances of that happening are 1 out of 100 million lobsters. You're going to find.
Wow.
Right after that, the next day, a different lobsterman in a different part off the coast of Maine caught another white lobster. So I'm not sure what's going on up there, but it's very, very extremely rare. But they've caught 2 back-to-back there.
So now there's albino lobsters, I guess.
And we had last week. We had the albino cobra, and I don't know whether you were still in L.A., but there's a albino cobra found in Thousand Oaks.
Yes, I was in L.A. I actually live in Los Angeles still. I just happened to be in Washington this week.
Right. Oh, okay. But was all of Southern California frightened about this albino?
Everywhere. Everywhere.
People were looking for it, right?
Here's the question I have. How do the white lobsters taste? I mean, I imagine. We cook them, right? What else are they good for?
I hope they went to some children's museum or something.
Yeah, sure. You be optimistic all you want. The Equality for the District of Columbia discussing the implications of S-132, the new Columbia Admissions Act of 2013. What is that? Well, that is the first Senate hearing that will take a look at D.C. statehood in the last 20 years.
Oh.
It's coming up on Monday, 3 o'clock p.m. in the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. They're going to take a look again at giving D.C. statehood.
51st state?
The 51st state. You got it.
We have to get Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton in the next couple of days to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she lives right down the street. Let's bring her in. Yeah.
And Fishers, Indiana, at a place called Baymore Golf Club in Fishers, Indiana. They have come up with a brand new game. It's called foot golf.
Oh, I've played foot golf many times.
Bring out the old foot wedge.
Cheating, Bill.
You break out the old foot
wedge. It's called
wedge.
the foot wedge.
Here's the deal. It's exactly what it implies. It's a hybrid of soccer and golf. It's played over a regular golf course, and you kick the ball, and the goal is the same. You still try and get into the hole with
same size ball.
Same size ball, same size hole, and you kick the ball. You just don't use clubs. And the other thing is you run while you do it. So it literally is like a soccer game. You're just kicking a little golf ball instead of a soccer ball.
I'm sorry. It's not golf. No.
It's a little silly, right?
Yeah, it is a little silly.
It seems a little goofy. Well, it's catching on in Fishers, Indiana.
You can play that with your kids or something. Yeah. Doesn't count. All right. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. 13 minutes after the hour now. All right, so last week, Ben, you very active in this whole immigration issue, and Congress refuses to act, right?
Well, I want to say Congress is meaning to me the Republican leadership in Congress refuses to act.
Thank you.
For the first time in many, many years, and I represent a nonpartisan organization, but we also want to make sure that not only our community but the public understands who was in the middle of this.
We would have a vote on. We would have an immigration bill on the president's desk. He would have signed it if House Republicans had agreed to allow a vote.
Exactly.
Do you agree?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was 3 leaders that could have done the right thing: Cantor, Boehner, and McCarthy, and they chose not to do the right thing and allowed this issue to be prolonged and continue playing with our community as it is. So we are in a situation that we are because it's a political party who decided not to take this issue on and fix the problem, as much as they all realize that it's an issue that needs to be fixed.
That needs to be fixed. Okay, well said. So then June 30, I was there in the Rose Garden when the president came out. He was angry that day, and he said, look, you got all these kids coming across the border, and everybody says we got a real problem here, and yet the House Republicans refuse to act, so I will do whatever I can. By the end of summer, I will have recommendations as to what I can do by the end of summer, and I will act immediately. Last week, he says, not by the end of summer, by the end of the year. What was your reaction?
Well, I'd be lying to you if I said to you that it's not something that got me angry, that got me upset and demoralized, but it lasted only about an hour.
Because?
Because the bottom line is I never got into this fight to have the president to hand us out whatever he can do. I got into this fight to fix immigration reform. We continue fighting, and even when the president, which is I believe he's going to do something, I'm not happy that he's delaying it, because every day that is being delayed, every time that the issue of immigration is being put on the back of any other issues, there is millions of people being impacted, millions of Americans. I want you to know that children are being left orphans in this country because of our laws. We are leaving kids without parents. American citizens' kids without parents is because we are deporting them. However, I felt
but if we're deporting them, they're not American citizens.
No, what I'm
right?
saying is, listen to me.
Yeah.
The parents of the American citizens are being deported. I know families that are being torn apart.
Yeah.
And the kid was born in this country, and they have to either leave them behind or take them with them to a place that they not even know, and that is not their country. And that is not an American that I know of. And I'm an immigrant myself, and I'm proud to say I'm an immigrant, but I'm proud to say I'm an American as well. So when the president announced finally over the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, that this was going to be delayed, I'm not going to lie to you, I was very upset, very angry, disappointed. But when you sit down and start thinking what else we need to do, but to continue fighting and to continue pressing making sure that the president is going to do the right thing, but to make sure that we're going to have leaders elected that are going to take this issue seriously.
Are you convinced that in the end, let's say whether it's November or December, that the president will take some strong executive action?
I'm hopeful, but I'm not gonna put my money and betting anymore in this issue, because this is not the first time. I mean, Bill, as early as this year, Republicans came forward. Leadership said, "We have our principles. We're gonna do immigration." They toy around. Those were, again, lifting our hopes.
Mm-hmm.
So for now, what we're gonna be doing is we're not gonna trust anybody but ourselves. We need to continue building. We need to be, we the ones in the community need to make sure that we're going to get this done, because they're not going to do it for us.
Now, I'm a Democrat. I was chair of the California Democratic Party. You know that. Everybody knows I'm a liberal. I'm a Democrat, so I'm not trying to hide that. And I agree with you. The principal blame belongs on the three you mentioned: Cantor, McCarthy, and John Boehner. But the reason the president delayed this is because there's a big fight for control of the Senate. And Democrats told the White House that in 7 out of 8 of those key races, Senate races, the Latino population is less than 10%. So they basically said, so who cares about these guys? You know, how does that make you feel? They're basically saying the Latino population doesn't count. This issue doesn't count because you've got less than 10% in Arkansas or New Hampshire or Louisiana, some of these key states, or Alaska.
Bill, unfortunately, I've come so many years of fighting. That used to be the case in California, if you remember, that as liberal as California seems to be today, I would challenge anybody to go back to California before 1994 and the struggle that we had in the community, and the fact that they ignore us for many years, up until including the most difficult fight of my life in 1994, when Pete Wilson decided to attack our community by denying access to the schools and health care to the kids born in this country.
Prop 187.
But let me tell you what happened to California, Bill. You're from California. You understand. Everybody knows. California changed.
Yeah.
But it didn't change by itself. We made it change. And let me tell you one thing. The Latino community is growing. And if people think that we're not going to go to those states that today we are ignored, if the people think that we don't have relatives in those states today, if the people think that in December and coming out in 2016, they're not going to come and beg that we forgive them and that we give them a chance, Democrats and Republicans need our vote if they want to get to the White House. And in this position, to me, they're just making a short-term calculation.
Mm-hmm.
And look at what happened to California, and look at what California is today. Since 1998, when we started voting in a bigger numbers in California, 96 it started changing, 98 was the biggest change that we had, and we're going to continue doing that as we move forward. And that's not only California. Look at what's happened in Colorado. Colorado, they made a calculation that is not going to you know, that the Latinos are going to have to show their support because we have to work, and we're going to continue doing that.
I'm anxious to see how candidates in 2016 address the fact that nothing was done on immigration reform. It's like you said, they're going to come back and say, hey, forgive us for not getting anything done, but we really need your vote now. And how that's going to be, how they're going to balance that, and how it's going to be received.
Well, let me tell you. I mean, I think that in this particular case, the Republicans are suffering of their own success, and the reason that I'm saying that is as we develop 2010, the demographic lines and how do we gonna the redistricting, we secure a lot districts left and right. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
There is no competition in there. But we are growing, Bill. And the bottom line is, if you want to be a regional party, continue doing what you're doing. Continue ignoring the Latino community. Now, if you want to be a national party, you'd be better off trying to address our issues and start talking to us.
Yeah. The sleeping giant has been awakened even in these states where they, in the short term, they think they can ignore the Latino vote. They cannot. Ben Monterroso here from Mi Familia Vota. This is just such an important issue with so much riding on it. We'll talk more about the president's deportation policy when we come back at 866-55-PRESS. You're out there. You got a question, a comment? Join the conversation.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Whoa, already 27 minutes after the hour. Cindy Boren from the Washington Post joins us in the next half hour. Right now, ending up our conversation with Ben Monterroso from Mi Familia Vota. This is such an important issue, and if you want to follow through on it, and we encourage you to do so, you can always go to mifamiliavota.us.
US.org.
US or .org. Yeah. Ben, so what does the Latino community want right now? We just got about a minute left. What is your goal?
Our goal is to make sure that President Obama knows that we are counting, that he has to take the executive action that he was going to do. The bigger, the better. And we also realize that whatever he does is not going to cover everybody, nor is going to be permanent. So we're going to continue fighting to make sure that legislation is going to be done, because the issue of immigration is not if, it is when. It's going to happen, and we're going to continue making that happen.
And you're going to continue to get people to register to vote out to vote and exercise your political power. Right?
We're not going to stop doing what we started doing back in 1994 and continue to date. And we, Mi Familia Vota, are in 6 key states, and we know that the Latino vote is going to be making the difference. 2014 in Colorado, watch out. But in 2016, you're not going to be able to go to the White House without the Latino vote.
All right. You hear that message loud and clear. Hey, Ben, thanks so much. Great to see you again. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Bill.
Cindy Boren coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are 3 incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Wednesday, September 10, 33 minutes after the hour. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C. and our studio on Capitol Hill, brought to you today by AFSCME. You know, the good men and women of AFSCME, the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country. For more information, visit their website. Find out about the good work they're doing under President Lee Saunders at afscme.org, AFSCME.org. Well, thank God the Nats are winning, because that's about the only good news on the sports front.
Seems
these
like
days. Yeah. And the Braves. We're even beating the Braves right now, which shows how good it is. But otherwise, things are pretty bleak in the sports world. Cindy Boren, she kind of keeps track of it all, tries to keep a cheerful
I try.
face and expression. Cindy Boren from the Washington Post. Nice to see you again, Cindy. Thank
see you
for coming in. But how about them Nats, huh?
How about them Nats? Although, you know, the key now is to actually win in October.
That's the thing. That's the thing. We've
You
seen
are aware.
this story
You are
before.
aware that this isn't over at the end of this.
Oh, no, I've
right?
already bought my World Series ticket.
Okie dokie.
Yeah. But, you know, all that good news and anything else, the beginning of the NFL season, everything is, it's all Ray Rice. It's all everybody is talking about.
It's the NFL's worst nightmare. Instead of the, you know, glories of opening day and their gladiators on the field, you know, and the games and the Peyton Manning games Sunday night, all anybody's talking about Mondays, you know, Ray Rice and the NFL's attitude toward women.
I want to play a quick clip from, we asked the question yesterday, do you really believe that the NFL did not see that video? And if not, why not? Well, Roger Goodell comes out yesterday and basically doubles down and said, no, we didn't see it. We tried to, but we couldn't get access to it. Here's Goodell.
Well, we had not seen any videotape of what occurred in the elevator. We assumed that there was a video. We asked for video. We asked for anything that was pertinent, but we were never granted that opportunity.
Do you believe that?
Let me put this diplomatically? It strains credulity. The NFL.
That's a nice way of saying no.
The NFL is the most controlling league you have ever seen. They manage everything, micromanage everything, down to who is selling, bogus merchandise. They were when the Super Bowl was in New Orleans, and there were a lot of people selling Saints gear and stuff like that. Homemade stuff.
Yeah.
Because, it's not an economically thriving area, and it certainly wasn't after Katrina. They went after those people, little mom and pop, manufacturers. So it is difficult for me to believe that all of a sudden they were just, sitting there very quietly. And also, you know what? It may even be a moot point about whether they saw the video. How do they think she became unconscious?
Thank you.
I mean,
yes,
she didn't faint.
Right. We've talked about that, and he even says, when he talks about what happened inside the elevator, he acknowledges he knows what happened in there. So now that you saw it, it all of a sudden becomes
why do you need to actually see that?
Right.
And,
that's a point that I don't think enough people are talking about. The video's horrible.
If they'd seen that, they would have given him 4 games?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's troublesome, and it continues to be. But, this is the problem with this is, and they didn't count on this, this was sort of a decision they made with the cold calculus of businessmen. He works for billionaire owners, and they sort of made this as a business decision, not as, looking at the morality of it, the social implications of it. And I'm guessing, I'd be willing to wager on this, that they sure didn't have any women in the room when they talked about the punishment to give Ray Rice.
So,
good point.
So he starts out by initially, maybe looking at just one video, who knows, but only giving him 2 games and with all the flack. And then he makes this great big public apology and says, now I've learned my lesson. And he comes out and he comes out with this new policy. I mean, the whole thing now is just, it seems meaningless, right?
That is, to get back to you just a second, that is the biggest problem here, I think, is that they screwed up. Then they said, we did screw up. Then they give a better punishment. And then now last night he's defending and saying, we handled it as best as we could.
Up and down
it's like, look, man, if you screwed up and you came out and said, we didn't get this right, and you stuck to that.
Yeah. No,
but first he doubled down on it. Remember,
he did.
In early August when he first came out, when they dropped the suspension, he first sent out a lieutenant to explain it, and that was, a complete disaster on the Mike and Mike show. Then finally he came out about a week later. I mean, he's been absent in all of this. For a guy who likes to be in front of the cameras and be large and in charge, he's been really absent. And the second time he came out, he doubled down on it. And he spouted, the cliches that you would expect, this is the policy. And then, he realized when people kept talking about it that they'd made a horrible mistake and they had to do something about it.
All right, so we've got the NFL that really bungled this, and then the Ravens themselves.
They did. You had to feel somewhat sorry for John Harbaugh because, Harbaugh was rather infuriating a couple of weeks ago when he came out and said, Ray Rice is a terrific guy, But you know what? He's a football coach. Yeah. He's not an owner. He doesn't run a business. He's a football coach. You didn't see the general manager, Ozzie Newsome, come out. I mean, Ozzie is a great general manager. He very rarely talks to the media or has a public face compared to other GMs. And, the owner, Steve Bisciotti, who is always an accessible owner, it was kind of surprising to me that he didn't come out and say anything until yesterday.
Right.
Suddenly, all of a sudden, this is a problem.
Had they seen the tape, the Ravens?
No, they say they had not.
They say they had not, too. Okay. So then the other element here, there's so many levels of this, is the police. The police did see the tape,
They
right?
did.
And in New Jersey, what
failure.
is this sort of accepted behavior in New Jersey? Or?
There's another failure. Yeah, the justice system comes first. And, maybe we've all seen athletes, stellar athletes, get preferential treatment. We've all seen criminal things disappear on the college level, on all sports.
Sure, yeah.
And we've all seen prosecutions sort of, just go away. Maybe they thought that's what was going to happen there, that they thought they had this taken care of and managed and under control. And then, it popped back up again and bit them.
Right. And then there's the broader question of domestic abuse,
Yes.
spousal abuse, and the fact that just in some quarters, people still feel, well, we don't know.
We don't know what happened.
Well,
what happened.
Gotta hear both sides.
and they were
Evidence
clearly
is-
quarreling. And she kind of took a swing at him, a slap at him in the video. And I can't tell you the numbers of emails I've gotten from people who were saying, she was the aggressor here. Okay,
Yeesh.
that's all I've got on that one.
So how
but
does-
I've gotten a lot of emails on that.
I believe it because I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
That out there online. I think a big part of this, in terms of moving forward, is how they handle the 2 current domestic violence cases in the NFL.
Yes.
I was going to ask you about those. Yeah, Peter.
And what happens? What
go
happens next with those?
Well, it's interesting. One of them is
Let's talk about which ones they are. Just go ahead.
It's Ray McDonald and
Ray McDonald is the one that
he's the big one.
everyone's
There is another one, and
There
I'm
was
blanking on
another
the
one
guy's
that
name
happened
now.
after,
Yeah.
but Ray McDonald will be the first one that will be adjudicated. He plays for the San Francisco 49ers. And, John Harbaugh's brother, Jim, coaches the 49ers.
Oh,
and
geez,
Jim has been very vocal about saying he has a zero tolerance policy. Well, he's got a lot of defensive players who are out, some of them on suspension, and for other things. And he's, faced with the possibility of losing this guy, and all of a sudden it's like, well, we have to let the legal system play out first. We have to let due process go into effect here. Yet the commissioner has always said, playing in the NFL is not a right, it's a privilege. You are held to a higher standard. So there are all these inconsistencies, and I think that drives people nuts.
So McDonald is playing now?
Yeah, he played last weekend.
By the way,
last
it's
weekend.
Greg Hardy from the
Greg
Panthers
Hardy,
is the other one.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot.
But McDonald has
McDonald
been
was the first.
McDonald has been charged and is awaiting trial. Is that it?
Well, he's awaiting his next court date.
Waiting his next
Yeah.
court date.
Yeah, it's like Ray Wright. He never went to trial for what he
Not
did.
yet. Well, it was just a couple weeks ago. Literally, it was 4 or 5 days. Oh, no, it was like 3 days after Goodell instituted this new policy that he was arrested.
McDonald?
Goodell, yes. Goodell announced it
McDonald.
on a Thursday, and McDonald was arrested early Sunday morning.
So the idea is, I understand innocent until proven guilty, but they won't take any action until the law has.
That's now what they're saying, yes.
That's
And, they've taken action against people who have smoked weed,
Yeah.
It's an inconsistent.
Again, domestic
inconsistent-
abuse goes on the back, is just not taken
Well,
as seriously.
what would have
Just-
happened? Ask yourself this: what would have happened to Ray Rice if there had been no video?
Bill pointed that out yesterday. He'd be
You know
back
what?
on the field playing next weekend.
Absolutely.
Nothing would have happened.
Absolutely.
Absolutely nothing.
No.
Zero. He would
And,
be
I
on the field.
know Janae, whatever, came out yesterday and blamed the media. But,
Right.
Look, TMZ, we would not know about this without TMZ.
You wouldn't know about Donald Sterling. You wouldn't know about the issues with Jameis Winston at Florida. You wouldn't
Yeah.
know about that. At Florida State, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry about that. You wouldn't, TMZ's had the 3. You have to be careful when you see them reporting something, but, props to them.
They were
Yeah,
right on the
no,
money with the
absolutely.
I mean,
coverage.
without
No.
them, we would not. Donald Sterling would still be sitting courtside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ray Rice would he'd be back on the field. Absolutely. Cindy, oh man, so what should we do about this now? Where do we go next? Cindy, can the NFL recover with Goodell at the head? That's the question. I still come back. Ray Rice doesn't survive. I don't think Roger Goodell should either. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. Talking about this yesterday and again today. Cindy Boren at WashingtonPost.com. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather. But life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune into Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour, Apple out with a new iPhone, bigger and better, they say, certainly bigger, and an iWatch. Oh my God. Look at that at the top of the next hour. Right now, we're talking sports with Cindy Boren, Deputy Sports Editor for the Washington Post at WashingtonPost.com, and follow Cindy on Twitter at Cindy Boren. How about it?
Yes, sir.
But she's here in the flesh right now. I don't want it to look like we're really picking on the NFL or picking on professional football.
Else?
So let's pick on the NBA.
Uh-oh, careful.
We thought we got
Hey,
Big
the
NBA
NBA
fan.
fan.
I know, but we thought we got rid of the racist NBA owners and managers with Donald Sterling. Oops.
Not so fast, buddy.
Not so fast, right? What's up with the Hawks?
Well, you know, the Bruce Levinson, who is owns the controlling interest in the Atlanta Hawks, is going to sell because of an email that he had written in response to an investigation when they were looking into Luol Deng, right? When they were looking into signing Luol Deng. And there was a meeting that the high management of the Hawks had in which Danny Ferry, the general manager, read a memo that included some racist descriptions of Luol Deng, who is from Sudan, and said that he had a little African in him. I'm quoting there. And
by the way, Luol Deng's response to that, by the way, was phenomenal.
Awesome.
He says, "I'm proud to say I actually have a lot of African in me."
Yeah, it was great. Well, I mean, he's a smart guy, and he'd be an asset for any team. I mean, this was just this. But again, this is where it's a different form of racial insensitivity than Donald Sterling. With Donald Sterling, what you saw was what you got.
Yeah.
This is, again, that cold calculus of business.
And what Bruce Levinson's comments that I saw were business related, in the sense that how do we get more white fans in the stadium? And there are too many black fans here, and they're turning out the white fans. So we need some white cheerleaders.
His terminology was, the black fans are scaring the white fans away.
Are scaring the white fans away.
Now, this is like you hear this a lot, not just in sports, but in a lot of aspects, right? Like when you see a racist person who uses the N-word and proudly supports and proudly wears their racist flag, that's one thing. But it's the other people, the other racists who hide behind business interests and things like that we don't see every day.
Right.
And that is a crazy racist thing to say. The black fans are scaring the white fans away, and we want more white fans here.
What I've heard some people speculate is that the Hawks are a losing franchise anyhow, and that Levinson wanted out. He self-released these comments that were made 2 years ago.
Well, it's also a fortuitous time because NBA franchises, the Clippers went for $2 billion.
I see. In other words,
but it's
right.
I mean, if you're cynical about that, believe that.
So did he do this as just a way of getting out of his?
Possibly. I don't know. But clearly there is a conversation here, especially in the NBA, to be had because you have a league that consists predominantly of black players. You have owners who are predominantly white. There's a whole conversation to be had about that. There's a whole conversation to be had about the crowds. That's not the one, that's not the way to do it. That's not the way to phrase it.
Okay. Serena Williams?
How about Serena Williams?
Phenomenal.
Greatest of all time?
Yeah.
Yeah, got to be, right?
Well, you could argue that Steffi Graf has more Grand Slams. She's won more Grand Slams. And if you go back before the Open era, Helen Wills Moody had more, and so did someone else whose name I'm forgetting. Oh, Margaret Court, the Australian.
So I would argue they can't be the greatest ever because
you can't
even remember their names.
Well,
that's just me.
Oh, come on. Just because they played when you were an embryo. They don't exist.
I know.
But yes, I mean, it's a different era. It's a power era. She's a different kind of player. It's the same with the men right now. These male players, the equipment is different. I was watching a replay of Borg McEnroe from 30 years ago the other night, and it was such a different game. It was so much more touch and finesse, and it was really enjoyable to see it actually.
Power game. But I mean, she's just phenomenal.
She is. She truly is.
Yeah. And I just kind of wanted. I feel badly here about all these negative stories about sports. So I wanted to end with Serena. Yeah, I just wanted to end with a positive thing. Yeah.
Way to go,
Bill. There are some good things happening.
You are Mr.
Here.
Sunshine.
And the Nats are winning. May they continue to win through October. Yeah. And they're even beating the Braves, which is really fun.
Can they beat the Phillies?
Well,
that doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, they won one game.
It doesn't matter.
They won one game against the Phillies. Yeah.
I love that after they changed their 7th inning stretch song to "Friends in Low Places," then they went on a little mini losing streak. They lost the next 2 games. Who wants that song? Come on.
That didn't really work for me.
All right. Hey, Cindy, so good to see you.
Thanks, you, Bill.
Come in on some better times and better days.
Okay.
Can only get up from here. Cindy Boren, don't forget, it's WashingtonPost.com. I'll be back to tell you what the president's up to today. I think we all know what's on his schedule today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, hours number 1 and 2 just about behind us. I know you liked them so much, you're going to want to stay around for hour number 3. Unfortunately, on Free Speech TV, you can't. That's their decision, not ours. Don't blame us. But we got an alternative for you, TawkrTV. Switch over to our worldwide video stream, Tawker, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. We're at the top of the hour. We will talk about all the new, exciting new devices released by Apple yesterday. And then hear more about Ray Rice and the NFL. Hour number 3 on TawkrTV.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Big day for President Obama. Only one, he gets a presidential briefing, which he does every day at 10 o'clock. But then the rest of the day, you can bet, is going to be spent on shaping up and rehearsing the big speech for tonight, which the president will give from the foyer of the main floor of the White House, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, where the president, 15 minutes, we're told. He's going to speak for 15 minutes. Don't have to worry about being interrupted by applause. There'll be no audience there. 50 minutes to make the case against ISIS and to lay out a strategy, his strategy for dealing with the threat of ISIS. That follows a meeting with congressional leaders yesterday and a dinner with foreign policy experts last night. In the next hour, we'll start out by taking a look at the new Apple product.
This is the Bill Press Show.
West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particular
try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags and we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now. Ban fracking now. Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Are Americans ready for another war? Well, I guess we'll find out tonight after the president makes the case. Hello, everybody, and welcome. It is the Bill Press Show. Here we go into hour number 3 this Wednesday morning, September 10. Good to see you and good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us as we boom out to you from our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., bringing you the news of the day from Washington, from around the country, from around the globe, and most importantly, looking forward to your comments on what's going on. You're part of the program. You know, at any time, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. And you know what the most important event of the day yesterday was? Nothing to do with the president's meeting with congressional leaders, nothing to do with the NFL and Ray Rice. It was all about the iPhone and Tim Cook's big announcement of improved products and new products from Apple. Katy Bachman covers technology issues for Politico, senior technology reporter, and is in the studio with us, hot off the press this morning. Hey, Katy, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. Got all the latest. I'm surprised you're not in San Francisco.
I'm next year. They're going to send me.
Oh, good.
I'm putting in for it right now.
All right, we got it. Our team here: Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Hey there.
Alicia Cruz standing by. She will be there. I just see her chair's empty for the moment. Taking your calls, or looking forward to your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And yes, we're on video as well, and that's the job of Cyprian Bolding, our videographer. Looking good on the worldwide video stream. The announcement yesterday by Tim Cook, it got so much attention, even late night comics had to talk about it yesterday. David Letterman with his take on the most exciting feature of the new expanded iPhone.
You folks like new technology? I know you're kind of a techno
buff. Yeah.
The new iPhone 6, you can get in line and go buy the new iPhone 6. Listen to this. Do you know what when I say Siri? You know what that is?
Oh yes, yes.
It's a button you can press, and it's a woman's voice who says, "Hi, Dave. How can I help you?"
Right.
And then you ask Siri some questions. The new iPhone 6 has a new, more advanced Siri. You can ask her where the nearest bar is, and she will actually meet you there.
Just what we needed.
Right, yeah.
But it reminds me of that movie, which I can never remember the name of, about Siri.
Right. About her?
Her. Fell in love with, the guy fell in love with Siri.
Well, there was a Big Bang Theory episode, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Right. That was the same kind of thing. And
I get it.
Do you use Siri? Do you use?
I don't, no. You know why? Because I just don't like, I feel like a crazy person.
Talking to your phone?
Talking to my phone and asking a question to an inanimate object. That is sometimes right. Like, sometimes gives me the information I'm looking for.
Well, one time my sister got so frustrated at it, and it said back to her, "Well, Molly, I'm doing the best that I can."
No, really?
Yeah, so I don't know. My husband uses it all the time, but
I use it sometimes to say, like, call Peter Ogburn. And,
right.
It'll say, calling Peter Ogburn.
But it still mangles names, right? So you get on.
Get some names wrong.
Yeah.
It still calls me Bachman. And I don't like it. It's Bachman.
Bachman, okay.
So
did I get it right?
Yeah, you did.
Bachman Turner
All
Overdrive.
right, good.
That's right.
But asking questions is iffy, I find. I remember when I was dinner with some friends, and something came up about white cranberries. And I said, I don't know anything as white cranberries. And without hesitating, picked up his phone and said, "Are there white cranberries?" or something. Yeah. And Siri found there were white cranberries, which blew me away.
You know what I use it for the most is I use it for sports scores, because I could say, did blah, blah, blah win last night? Or what's the score of the blah, blah, blah game? And it nails it.
Right. You don't have to search.
Right.
It is still amazing. And we'll find out the latest progress here from Katy Bachman at the half hour. We're going to be talking NFL again with Don Yaeger, who's got a book out called Pros and Cons, former editor of Sports Illustrated. Get right to it, but first, Peter always starts with the big headlines of the day.
Just a couple of other stories making news. I wouldn't call this an endorsement, but HBO's Bill Maher, who is known for being a fairly progressive commentator, said that Rand Paul could possibly get his vote. Bill Maher said, quote, Rand Paul is an interesting candidate to me. He could possibly get my vote.
Whoa.
He says, he likes the some of his ideas. He likes the fact that Rand Paul is out there on anti-war and anti-drones and things like that. And so he says those ideas appeal to the very progressive Bill Maher.
I like some of Rand Paul's ideas. I would suggest that Bill Maher do a little more research.
Yeah, right. Vassal Gel. Vassal Gel is the name of an experimental new medicine which is being called male birth control. It could be coming. It's non-hormonal, and it's not a surgery. It's an injection that you take. I'll spare you the details, the medical details, but it blocks men from being able to get women pregnant. They're saying that they have tested it in baboons. They're going to start human trials.
There you go.
And you can trust it.
What more do you need?
Sure.
Right.
Hey, look, they're gonna do some human trials this year. They say it's going to be on the market by 2017, and in their words, they say it's going to cost less than the cost of a flat screen television. So. You have male birth control.
But every time?
TV?
No, not every single time. No, I think it's
every time you have to buy a flat screen TV.
What a choice, right? TV, birth control.
I know.
Yeah, right. It's a tough one.
Yeah,
it's a tough one.
The only thing good about that is shifting the responsibility for birth control.
Absolutely.
Men, it's about time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not going to work if it costs as much as a flat screen TV every time.
Yeah. And a new analysis by Bloomberg News took a look at just how many baseball fans get hit by foul balls when they're at the game. You've been at ball games.
It's
You've
the
seen
fear of my life.
Foul ball games.
Seriously.
Is it really?
I love baseball games, but I'm always afraid a ball's going to come in my direction. And these nuts who try to catch him, I'll be under the seat. Oh, no.
Don't get caught on camera.
Long ago decided.
If you're working the baseball game that Bill's at, get that on camera.
I am diving under the seat.
Got to get that on camera. Well, the study shows that about 1,750 spectators get hurt each year by balls batted, mostly foul balls, at Major League Baseball games. So that's about twice every 3 games.
Wow.
These are not obviously foul balls that go off into the stadium. There are a lot more than those. These are people who actually get hurt. 1,750.
And you know why? Because they try to catch them. No. I mean, if they ducked like I'm going to do, wouldn't happen.
Go out there in a helmet next time, like a construction helmet.
People, idiots, bring gloves to the stadium.
Well, it's not hard to catch a baseball, but you just got to pay attention.
I don't know. Some of them come pretty fast.
Some of them do come flying at you.
No, I don't want anything to do with it.
But if they're coming that fast, you're not going to have time to get under your seat either, buddy.
I mean, I'm more and more convinced I have the right strategy when it comes to it. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. Katie, so exciting. Now, I'm a big iPhone guy, but I've got the 5. I don't have. So should I buy? So what's new about the 6? Or the 6s, I guess. Huh?
Well, they're bigger.
And then we talk about the watch later. But
right. Well, they're bigger. They're supposedly faster. They have the new chip in them. They have the...
What's that mean, the new chip in them?
It makes it faster.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, everybody likes that. Yeah. Everybody wants faster, better, easier to access, or faster Wi-Fi, they said. Voice over LTE, which just means supposedly it'll be much clearer when you talk to people on the phone. So, the usual stuff. But I think the size was the one thing that a lot of people wanted. I particularly didn't care. I'm fine with this size, but now I guess I got to go to the
next. So
size.
The 6 is a little bigger, and then the 6 Plus is what do they call it?
Yeah, it's getting close to being a tablet, if you ask me. But a lot of people like that sort of thing.
I saw a picture of someone, an average-sized man, holding the 6 Plus at the event yesterday. And I just said, I don't want that. I don't know that I have pockets big enough. You know what I mean?
Well, they're going to have to redesign every purse that I know of in order to accommodate that, right? They have the little pockets, and I kept thinking,
right.
Got to redesign here. So I'm
what's the push
guy.
for it? That you just have to keep, I mean, every year, right? They have to keep new products.
Well, that and I guess the whole Android universe, people were going to the bigger sizes, particularly the people that are not my demo, but the younger folks wanted those bigger phones. And so I guess they felt that they had to do that.
And what's the cost?
Oh, it's the usual iPhone cost. I'm not sure what it starts at. $399.
So I think the
$299 maybe.
The 6 starts at $199, and then the 6 Plus is $299. But what they've done now, my understanding is that they now have a 128 gigabyte version.
Sure.
Which is double the size of the.
And if you watch movies on your phone,
right,
and you don't have an iPad, maybe that's the thing for you.
But that will cost you $500.
Right. Always costs more for more space.
Yeah, and that's with a 2-year contract.
And
right.
what's the buzz? That it's a good product, good phone, good move.
I would say it's an iPhone. I would say that it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think the buzz is pretty good. I think what the big news, I think, was the iWatch, and what I really think is changing, could change things, is Apple Pay.
I
want to talk about that too, right? And but one final question:
Right.
So is Samsung really giving Apple now a run for its money? I mean, I see a lot of ads for Samsung.
My
People
sister
come in
has
here.
a Samsung.
Okay.
And let me tell you.
The way you said that was very
well, she
telling.
thinks it's really great, and she's got it for the size, right? She wants to be able to see. She doesn't want to have to put on her glasses, blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't work nearly as well. It doesn't sync up with stuff.
Right.
I mean, she has it because it's bigger, but I think now that the bigger one's out with the iPhone, she's going to go for that. So personal experience, I think the iPhone will have it.
So before we get to the watch, let's talk about was it iPay?
Apple Pay.
Apple Pay. This is revolutionary, isn't it?
I think so. I think it's fascinating.
What can you do?
You'll be able to take your phone and just you put using your fingerprint, right? If you use the fingerprint to unlock the phone, and put it up to a retail reader, boom, you've paid for it. It's done. And the beauty of it is, because we all worry about security.
So that's for buying online or at a store?
No, in a retail store.
At a retail store.
Right.
So you don't take your wallet out.
No. They've lined up 220,000 stores, the usual kinds of places, Petco, McDonald's, Whole Foods. They've lined up the 3 banks that make up 80% of the whole payment universe, Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. They've lined up major banks. The beauty of it is the security features.
That's what I want.
Because you never hand somebody your credit card.
Right. And you also don't have to worry about somebody stealing those numbers or your social security number or anything, because they've sort of combined 2 or 3 technologies. So Apple doesn't have that information. The store won't have that information. They'll obviously have that you bought something, but they won't know it's you. It's just the exchange of money.
How does that work? How does that not?
It's all magic. I don't know precisely how it works, but they
so
have.
You walk up to the sales clerk or whatever.
Right.
You walk up to the desk. If you're Macy's, you walk up and you got the shirt you're going to buy, and you just they total them up, tell you what it is, and you just go.
Right, and then the phone vibrates, lets you know it's okay.
Wow.
Oh, whoa!
So it gives you a little feedback.
And and they've got the information. I mean, you just feed it.
They've got your money.
Wow.
They don't have, your information. It can't be hacked. And so that's why I think it's revolutionary. Not so much that you can
I didn't
pay with your
realize.
phone,
That's
right?
awesome.
Do you have a Starbucks app, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, this is it's the security features. So they're going to have to push this. They're going to have to explain it to people, because it does.
Now,
after all the breaches and everything.
Can I download it on my i5?
Yes, I think so.
I believe you can. I think it's 4S and later you can't. So I think you can on your 5.
Okay, but I mean, so I don't have to buy a new phone to get that app.
I do not believe so.
Yeah,
okay,
but then I could be wrong. Don't hold me to it.
Okay, the watch.
The watch.
Next. The watch coming up next. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back. Tech geeks, here's your time. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number with Katy Bachman from Politico, senior technology reporter. Right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look! Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It's bigger than a Pop-Tart. We discovered that during the break. The new Apple 6 Plus, or Super 6 or whatever it's called. Katy Bachman is with us now. She's senior technology reporter for Politico. And so the New York Times has a picture of, we did learn, by the way, that for the tech, thanks to
the Apple Pay.
Thanks to my husband, the early adopter.
A special source here, that if you want the tech pay, you do have to get the new phone to get it.
Because it has a chip in it.
Has a chip in it. Now, so this iWatch, what is this all about? Does this mean that everything I do here now I can do on my wrist or what?
No. But it has a lot of stuff, let's put it this way. It was highly anticipated. So when Tim Cook got to it at the end, as you know, everybody's like, ooh. So there was a lot of anticipation. It can monitor your heart rate, and I guess eventually, if you want to combine it with some health and medical apps, it could really help in that regard. It's got a lot of fitness, health and fitness pieces in it, so that you can see how long you run, how well you run, what kind of elevation. It's got the usual things like weather.
Can I ask a dumb question?
And actually the time.
I was just going to say, it's a watch.
Yeah, it's a watch.
Will it tell me what time it is?
It almost isn't a watch, really. It's almost a dumber iPhone, really. In fact, there were some very funny tweets of people with pictures. I don't know if you saw those, too.
Do I watch?
Lots of iPhone humor today. Yeah. But, yeah. It is a watch.
It is a watch.
And you can, pick the display. You can have an analog display, or you can have a digital display, and you can have pictures, and you can get some Facebook messages, or you can get...
But you can't do email on it,
map.
Right? I mean, you don't have a... Right?
No, I don't know. But you can hook into some of those apps and communicate that way with people.
I do think it's cool. And I do think I think that the Fitbit, Jawbone, wearable,
it's a glorified
fitness
Fitbit,
thing,
a big
right?
Fitbit.
It's a very big market, but I don't know if it's enough for Apple to necessarily.
Does it have Siri on it? Do you know?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yes,
I think it does.
I believe it does.
Well, this would be cool because then you could put your watch up and say.
You can pretend like you're Dick Tracy.
Exactly.
Oh, nobody in your audience will know who that is, right?
No, you put your over there. Yes. Could you call my wife at home and tell her I'll be a half an hour late?
Right. And of course, the design was a big deal.
Very, very exciting day in the tech world, indeed, whether you're an Apple customer or not. And you got a fun job,
It is. It is.
And you cover other stuff, I'm sure, in between Apple announcements.
We do.
So you got to come back and we'll talk more tech one of these days.
I would love to. It'd be a lot of fun.
Katy Bachman. And you can follow her at Politico, Politico.com. We'll be back and talk more Ray Rice. Oh, God.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Wednesday, September 10. It is The Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and we were brought to you today by the National Education Association, the good men and women of the NEA Teachers of America under their new president, Lily Eskelsen Garcia, good friend of our program, creating great public schools for every student in America. You bet. Find out more about their good work at NEA.org. More questions than ever, it seems, about Ray Rice, suspended by the NFA, dropped by the Ravens, but hard to believe the NFL, sorry. The leadership had not seen that videotape inside the elevator, but Roger Goodell, I am all over the place this morning. Roger Goodell yesterday saying, no, they wanted to see it, they knew it existed, but they didn't have access to it. Should we believe him? So many questions. Don Yaeger has been talking about criminal behavior in professional sports long before we heard about Ray Rice. He's the co-author of Pros and Cons and a former associate editor of Sports Illustrated, and joins us on our news line this morning. Hello, Don. Good to have you with us.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate it.
So I guess lots of questions about this whole Ray Rice situation, but it seems to me that maybe the number one question is that why should we be surprised at all for criminal behavior on by yet another professional athlete, right?
No, I think you've hit it right. I mean, the biggest question here isn't about Ray Rice. I mean, obviously, that all speaks for itself. The question is the culture. The culture of a sporting league, and that the NFL is pretty unique in that it has such. The NFL commissioner is so amazingly powerful, and Goodell. I watched that interview that he did with CBS last night. I was fascinated to listen to him just brush away questions like and the idea that the TMZ, that a website, that an investigative reporter, quote unquote, for a website called TMZ could unearth a video that all the power of the NFL with their entire investigative unit, which is made up of former FBI agents. That's who works for the NFL, a whole string of former FBI agents. But they couldn't get that video, but TMZ could. It just smacks just smacks of heresy. I mean, I honestly believe that they didn't want to see the video, and what was made public back in February, the video of the elevator door opening, of her knocked out cold, of him dragging her out of the elevator. I don't think they wanted to see exactly how it happened, and had they wanted to, I think it's pretty obvious they could have.
Yeah, if Harvey Levin could get it, they could have gotten it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's sort of two camps here, right? There are those that say they don't believe the NFL, that they have seen the video and they're not being honest about, or someone in the NFL has seen the video, they're not being honest about it, or they didn't want to see the video as a way to sort of keep their hands a little cleaner.
I probably land in the latter. Okay. I think had they seen it, I think it would have been really important. Now, again, remember that even when Goodell suspended him, and there was the backlash at the idea that he was suspended only for 2 games, that has been the historical pattern of suspension for domestic violence in the NFL. The book that you referenced, Bill, in the intro, a book called Pros and Cons, The Criminals Who Play in the NFL, that book was written 18 years ago. How crazy is that? I mean, it just reminds me how old I am.
Yeah.
18 years ago, Jeff Benedict and I sat down and took the opening day rosters of the previous season's NFL teams. So, we just picked the opening day roster. Whoever was on the team on when the kickoff of the first game began, and we did public record background checks. You know that there are a lot of states where background checks, especially if juveniles, are not public.
Yeah.
And we did the best we could to determine how many of those players on those teams were convicted criminals, and we found that 21% of them were.
20?
Many of them felons.
Wow.
Most of that 21% were felonies.
Good grief.
The NFL just dismissed the book and said, come on, how do you even compare that to the public at large? Do you know how, they rather than dealing with the statistics and the stories, they tried to argue relevance and tried to get into a discussion of whether or not this issue has just been hanging out there forever. It just took a video unearthed by TMZ to make the NFL suddenly stand up and say, "You're right. We need to get tough. Let's get tough."
Any idea of what the percentage would be today? Have you done that calculation?
I have not. It's I will tell you, it was one of the more incredible projects, man-hour wise, that I've ever participated in, and it's probably why it's never been done again.
Yeah,
but it's
I have to say though, if you took there can be convicted felons or people who've gotten in trouble like in every branch of life, but if you took any representative sample of, I'd have to add, of teachers or firefighters or insurance agents or whatever, I don't think you'd find any group that would have higher than 21% unless you were talking about the mafia.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it was fascinating because, again, then the NFL tried to get into a demography debate with us. Well, how do you know? I mean, look at the poor backgrounds many of our players come from.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, then the flip side of that is look at their upside earning potential, right? I mean, so now you have to compare them really on a dollar for dollar basis with guys at Wall Street because that's what they have the opportunity to earn, right?
Yeah.
And so now I'm not convinced that Wall Street's any less criminal, but point being that the idea there was that the NFL, rather than saying, you know what, we have an issue. It happened a couple of weeks after the book came out. There was a couple of months after the book came out, there was a domestic violence summit in Florida that I was asked to speak at, and the NFL actually sent a representative, and that representative's answer to this group of domestic violence advocates was, you don't think these guys only earn 16 paychecks a year, right? We take 2 of them away. You don't think that's tough enough? I think that's extraordinary. And, obviously the guy left out a back door off the stage because I think if he'd have tried to go through the front door,
he
they'd
might
have taken more paychecks from him.
He might have been mugged. So now what happens to Ray McDonald, 49ers, in light of this whole Ray Rice incident?
Well, the upside for Ray McDonald right now, as far as I know, but again, TMZ hasn't gotten involved. There's no video of his event. It's a he said she said situation, but at a minimum, he's going to be suspended 6 games, which is the new protocol.
Right.
Is that enough? I don't know. I mean, where do you draw a line? And what when you're trying to mete out punishment or trying to define what is an appropriate punishment, it has to be where will it start to alter behavior, right? Where will you start to say to people, this is such an unacceptable behavior that we want. I mean, they'll throw you out for gambling, but they won't throw you out for beating a woman senseless.
Right. Or for smoking pot. I mean, they throw you out too. But
Right.
so what do you attribute the culture to? I mean, if Ray Rice is the latest in just a series of criminal behavior on the part of people, not just in the NFL, but particularly the NFL, what does that do to it? It attracts a certain kind of person, or what?
Well, so I think there's 2 aspects to that. But the first one is it's a culture of entitlement, and it begins not at the NFL level. I mean, this begins when they are, in Pee Wee football, right? When they can run a sweep and go 80 yards down the field every time they touch the ball, and mommy and the coach and everybody else really loves all that, and they love being on the sidelines wearing the jerseys and all the other good stuff. Then they do bad things, but is taking away that ability to go run the football. One of the things that they lose as a result of their bad behavior, often not. Sure. Right, and because we are not instilling those morals, I had maybe one of the most chilling interviews during that entire book project. Was in the high-risk federal penitentiary outside of St. Louis, Missouri, with Darrell Henley, the former Los Angeles Ram, who was running drugs using cheerleaders for the L.A. Rams back when the Los Angeles had a football team. He was using cheerleaders to carry drugs for him between on the team plane between games that he would drop off with drug dealers in other cities. And the judge was getting ready to sentence him, and he ordered the murder of the federal judge from a jail cell. And obviously, federal judges don't like that, so they put him in.
Yeah,
they put him in the toughest prison they could in America. And Darrell Henley sitting there looked at me and he said, this started for me when I was 7 years old.
Whoa.
And he said, that's when everybody made an excuse. Every time I did something wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody had an answer for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's pretty scary. That is. Whoa. And then there we go. It's the book, Pros and Cons, The Criminals Who Play in the NFL. Jeff Benedict and Don Yaeger. Well, Don, you've put it in context, so I guess all we can expect, I hope not, but not be surprised if we see more of this kind of behavior. Hopefully we'll have a better response to it than we've seen in the past. Don, thanks so much for your good work and your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks, pal. Appreciate it very much.
Don Yaeger, it's Pros and Cons, the criminals who play in the NFL. You can follow Don on Twitter at Don Yaeger.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour, talked about the new iPhone this hour. Talked about Ray Rice and the NFL this hour. Can't move on without a little word, of course, about the president's address tonight to the nation. He has asked the networks for prime time to address the American people at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 Central, of course. He will do so from the foyer of the White House, first floor of the White House. And according to what we were told yesterday by Josh Earnest, press secretary, the president's mission is twofold. One, to make the case about ISIS and why ISIS is a serious threat to American interests in the region, and perhaps to the homeland itself. They're not making that case right now. They don't say that ISIS is like Al-Qaeda plotting attacks on the American homeland, but there are maybe 100 or more foreign fighters from the United States in Syria and Iraq with ISIS, and if some of them come home, they could be plotting actions once they get here against the United States. So both fronts. So making the case, again, first thing is how serious ISIS is, and then secondly, outlining his strategy to do with it, to deal with it. The president has said, and Josh Earnest has told us, that there are various elements of the president's strategy. He probably will not announce airstrikes against Syria already underway, or that he has already, in fact, made the decision. But if we are to conduct airstrikes against Syria, then he says 4 things must be in place. First, a stable new Iraqi government, which we just got this week. It's 2 days old, not even fully formed yet. Second, a re-energized, retrained Iraqi military who can follow through on the ground. So we won't put boots on the ground. We'll just do the airstrikes, but they will put boots on the ground, they being the Iraqi military. Third element, the Syrian moderate opposition military forces, again, with new weaponry and new training. Count on them. And fourth, count on resources, including boots on the ground, from some of our allies in the region, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Jordan and Turkey. None of those pieces are in place yet, but they constitute, if you will, the 4 legs of the president's strategy. So a big question is, are any or all of those definite? No, I would say. Can we count on them becoming definite? Can we really count on them? That's a big question about each of them. I think each one of them is iffy, which to my mind makes a whole strategy iffy. But then there are two other important questions that I think the American people are looking for answers to tonight. Is one, how long is this going to take? How long are we going to be there? Are we talking about another year? We're not talking about any less than that. Is this going to be over before President Obama leaves office? Probably not. Are we talking about another 8 or 10 years? I hope not. For a war-weary America, I think even another month of war, Americans are not ready to jump into, but certainly not a year and not 8 years and not 10 years. So how long is it likely to last? American people are going to be looking for answers on that tonight. And also then the other question is, how much is this going to cost? You know, I had a dinner the other night with a guy who is the head of the high-speed rail project in California. So that high-speed rail project eventually is going to be Sacramento to Los Angeles to Las Vegas, and Los Angeles to San Francisco. And I think there's a spur down to San Diego. But basically, that whole big system. He told me, him saying this is an expensive system, billions and billions of dollars. They could build that entire high-speed rail system, and with the money that we have spent in Iraq, and have $500 billion left over for schools or parks or whatever else we want to spend it on. That's how much money we spend in Iraq. Now,
God,
are we ready to commit ourselves to another war? And I don't care what the president calls it tonight. He can call it a strategy or a plan. This is another war. Are we ready for another war at that cost and for that length of time in the Middle East? I don't think the American people are. I think the president's got a real tough challenge to make a strong enough case to convince war-weary people like me and you that this is worthwhile.
With all the bickering that we do in this country over funding very important things here at home, like the high-speed rail, like unemployment benefits, like
minimum wage,
name it.
Yeah.
There are all these issues that we fight over nickel and dime.
Yeah. Pale by comparison to how much money this is going to cost.
Compared to another war.
Right. Yeah. And think about it. After we saw what the Iraqi army did once they first met ISIS and dropped their weapons and ran, do we really think we can count on them this time? Lots of questions. Big speech tonight, 9 o'clock. Watch it. We'll certainly talk about it tomorrow. And I'll be back with a parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go again. After a 5-week break, Congress is back in town for 2 more weeks before taking another 2-month break. And House Republicans under John Boehner insist that they're here so briefly they have no time to do anything about the minimum wage or immigration or even ISIS. But guess what? They've got time for another big hearing on Benghazi. What a waste of time and money. They've already held 15 hearings on Benghazi. There's already been one investigation led by Admiral Mike Mullen and Ambassador Thomas Pickering, which concluded there's no evidence to support all the conspiracy theories Republicans are spreading. Not only that, listen to this. Mike Rogers, the Republican chair of the House Intelligence Committee, has said himself that conspiracy theories about Benghazi are being spread by Fox News and they are totally bogus. You know, there's only one reason why Republicans are holding yet another Benghazi hearing. They're so afraid of Hillary Clinton in 2016, they're trying to defame and derail her now. John Boehner ought to be sued for malpractice. Get over it. Have a great day, folks. Come back and see us tomorrow morning.
Is the Bill Press Show.